The same man who started Katharine Hepburn's screen career in the 30s also directed her first great success of the 40s, the film which revitalized her career and brought her another of the 12 Oscar nominations she's received. The picture was A Philadelphia Story, and it earned nominations for Ruth Hussey and for James Stewart. He won Best Actor, and for Best Director, his second of 5 such nominations, George Cukor. When sound took over pictures in 1929, the studios frantically searched the theater, Broadway, and elsewhere for stage directors, people who could handle this new thing called dialogue. For talking pictures, at first anyway, the talking not only had top billing, it was the only thing that mattered. Of all those brought to Hollywood at that time, the most talented, the most enduring by far was George Cukor. Although many of his pictures were adapted from successful stage plays or from popular novels, Cukor managed to transform them into successful movies through his amazing brilliance with actors, his great sense of pace, of atmosphere, of period. It's no accident that Cukor made one of the few really good Charles Dickens adaptations, The Best, David Copperfield, nominated for Best Picture and featuring W.C. Fields as a memorable Micawber.
Count on us, now and forever.
I will, Mr. McCall.
Nor an accident that Garbo gave her finest dramatic performance under Cukor's direction in Camille, for which she was nominated as Best Actress. And for another period piece by Cukor, Ingrid Bergman won the Oscar, Gaslight, with Charles Boyer. He was nominated for Best Actor. Joseph Cotton and Angela Lansbury in her first role, for which she too was nominated. Among the most terrifying, merciless of thrillers, about a man's calculated psychological manipulation of a woman.
Well, then I don't know what I do anymore.
I know, Paula. That's just the trouble.
Cukor was asked once if it was true that he adored the past, and he answered, "One should be alive and have a sense of one's own time, but one should also have a sense of history. Quite often now I find an absolute ignorance and intolerance of the past." Cukor himself was clearly balanced well between the past and the present. His contemporary comedies convey a brilliant sense of the period in which they were actually made. Whether it's the upper middle class of the early 30s and Dinner at 8, almost a tribute to the star system with Jean Harlow and Wallace Beery, Lionel Barrymore and Marie Dressler, and John Barrymore, or the middle class lawyers of the late 40s in Adam's Rib, written by Ruth Gordon and Garson Kanin. Probably the best of the 9 Spencer Tracy, Katharine Hepburn pictures, during all of which time they were lovers and the public never knew. Cukor directed them together in 3 of these.
Well, you know, as the French say.
What do they say?
Vive la différence.
Which means?
Which means hooray for that little difference.
The most famous film Cukor ever worked on is the one out of 50 for which he received the least credit, Gone with the Wind. Cukor was the first of 4 directors whom David O. Selznick had on the production. Cukor, over several months, supervised the sets, costumes, the locations, cast the picture with Selznick, directed the test for Vivian Leigh that got her the part, and shot for 3 weeks as director before Selznick replaced him with Victor Fleming, supposedly to placate Clark Gable, a buddy of Fleming's, who received the only screen credit and won the Oscar, as the picture did too, of course. Throughout the shooting, both Vivian Leigh and Olivia de Havilland continued to see Cukor for his direction, which he gave, even though he was in another film. They both were nominated for the Oscar, and Vivian Leigh won. Nearly everything Cukor directed stayed in, like this memorable scene.
You Yankees have been here before.
Bring a little Spitfire, ain't you? What do you got hidden in your hand?
It's no wonder that Cukor became famous as a woman's director. Though 3 men won Best Actor Oscars in Cukor films, there was a kind of unguarded, totally trusting self-confidence which Cukor evoked in women, as Judy Garland gave her finest dramatic performance for Cukor in A Star is Born, as Garbo and Katharine Hepburn did before her, and that other Hepburn, Dear Audrey, who became Cukor's My Fair Lady, another period piece which won Best Picture, Best Actor for Rex Harrison, and finally, Best Director for George Cukor, an award everyone agreed was not for this one picture, but for an entire career of remarkable quality.
Come on, Galva! Move your blooming ass! The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain.
I think she's got it. I think she's got it.
The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain.
By George, she's got it.